Good evening. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. Call the meeting to order and invite you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Superintendent?
No, sir.
Any comments? Action on approval of minutes of the last regular board meeting on June 12th. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions, revisions,
Emergency.
clarifications?
I'm sorry, I missed that thing.
Myself and
Kathy, okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. We have the sheriff has signed up for citizens' comments, but he had to step out to deal with the situation, so we'll defer until he returns.
Yes, sir, certainly.
Is that, okay. Consent agenda. Now, the only thing, I know that he wants to talk about an item. Is it on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. No, sir, it is not on
It's
the
separate
consent agenda. It's separate, so he'll
Okay,
have that
okay,
opportunity
fine.
later on.
Good.
It's under new business, sir.
Gotcha. Sorry.
That's okay.
Please, consent agenda.
Oh, no, sir. The consent agenda, the only edit is the removal of number 3, the appointment of Ms. Chloe Mogul, speech language pathologist. She has been working valiantly to procure the necessary paperwork from the university at which she secured her master's, and that is proving problematic in communication between the great state of West Virginia and the great state of Kansas.
Yeah.
We're hoping that they'll work it out and we'll be able to place her on a later agenda. So,
Okay, we do too.
and also the change to number 1, right?
yes, ma'am.
Any other modifications to the consent agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion on consent agenda? Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Going once, going twice, no questions. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. We had no unfinished business, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
New business, item A.
Yes, sir. Action on approval for a contractor to provide roof replacement for North Jefferson Elementary School. Mr. Dingus, our Assistant Superintendent for Operations, is fulfilling his fatherly duties by taking his youngest child off to college today and tomorrow. So Mr. Keith Moran, who is our Director of Maintenance, has prepared some materials and will be presenting. You all have this sheet in front of you, and he will walk you through both the process, the bids that were received, and his recommendation. And I believe he has some additional support here as well. So,
Welcome, Mr. Moran.
Hey,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I don't know where you want me to go to the podium. I'll go.
thank you. It's easier for the recording, sir, and the cameras. Thank you.
Lovely. So I'll walk you through the process. Obviously, you know, we came to you.
If you would, just start by summarizing. This is a roof replacement for which?
North Jefferson
North
Elementary
Jefferson.
School.
Thank you.
Yeah. You guys approved us to go out to bid for to come back with information sharing about what we could possibly do between now and what my end date is, which is August 11th, knowing that school is right around the corner after that. So that advertisement went out. We requested, in that, we requested visits so that I was able to meet with them one-on-one, so that they were actually be able to see the facility, because there are some things now that are a little quirky, that you can ping things from outer space and look just at the map and call up the roof and not even physically be there. So I really wanted to make sure that people arrived and showed up. Gave them the 3 bids that came in. We had that opportunity, did the proposal with them, did a walkthrough completely on the roof, and then the bids came back. So as the bids came back, what you see on the right-hand side where it says numbers are the 3 bids that came in strictly for just doing an entire removal and put down of what would be existing there. At one point in the process, as I do walkthroughs, I always am, I don't want to say, I like to hear from the expert. I want their opinions to come out before I start suggesting things or asking questions. I want to see where their brain goes, because I can determine in my own scope of work where I feel certain things need to be. So, as we got the base bids with the 3 numbers on the left, we got an alternate one from Heritage, which is because of what I was hoping for, which is somebody that would actually look at the roof and say, you know what, if you can make these transitions and this would actually last you a long time. And that is what my recommendation then becomes, because out of the evaluation of everything, and you can see how the numbers are, when you look at cost, the insulation, warranty-wise, time, meaning time frame of the length of when they can accomplish it. Sales is actually the people that I deal with, how they presented themselves, how they carried themselves, whether or not we were adding drains, using existing drains. Decking is if when they remove that roof, that if any material underneath has to be replaced, what that cost would be at that moment. Work performed in the county, meaning that the county's utilized them before, obviously, and then an alternate bid, which is what we were offered. This was done by myself, Kevin Hamilton, and Mr. Dingus as well. We looked at it, compiled it, and that's what we came up with. You get a little bit of a tie there. It would have been nice to break the tie, but we didn't break the tie. We came up with a tie. So that goes into, then you see the numbers. The dollar figure is a large amount, obviously. From all of our conversation, we really believe that a tapered system on the roof is the way to go. A tapered system basically means that you would have small peaks and valleys that would generate everything to go to either existing roof drains or a couple few roof drains that we actually have to put in. In this county right now, do we have tapered roofs? I'll be honest and say to you that no, we do not. So this would be something brand new to us. It would actually, in the long run, it's going to provide, hopefully, I mean, you always say that you got a chance, but the length of the roof, the lifespan of it would actually increase. And what's a little bit different about a tapered roof is, our standard is always 5 inches of insulation, okay? Well, we're actually going to have spots on this roof that are going to be 8.3, I think, actually. And that being said, it'll enable us in those areas to actually, achieve some energy area, I don't want to say savings. I never say savings because you don't necessarily know. But hopefully that'll, keep our buildings cooler and warmer at the same time. So we're going to garner a little bit there. So that's why I present that to you. I do have a little drawing, if you'd like to see it, of, am I allowed to move from the podium? Just checking.
Sometimes we put the zappers right here, so as soon as you do, it shocks you. But we use those for public comment. We put those away after redistricting, so you're safe.
Not saying we'll bring them out again, but.
Yes.
It's all right, I just want to check, it's just like, hey.
What you can see from this, and I know it doesn't really garner anything, but you get the front of the building is where I have the word front, and the gym is that space up top that's clear. what you'll see is if we deal with just the left-hand side where you see 175 feet, that number on the left, if you just take that middle portion, those little diamonds, that's our taper. Okay, that's where that's going to come up and peak and valley and then be able to run directly through to the roof drains that are existing. And then you can kind of get that diamond shape throughout. That's exactly what that is. When you walk on it, will you be able to obviously tell a difference? Yes. When you visually you'll see something different. Will it hurt us in the long run if we have to go up there and replace a rooftop unit or anything like that? No, I mean all of that still stays the same. So in retrospect, in all honesty, this is, thanks to Dalen's expertise, it's actually a really cool system coming into play. Questions, comments?
Thank you. Can we get a motion and then entertain questions?
So moved.
Thank you. Questions?
Greatly appreciate you looking at the tapered roofs because the flat roofs are like big swimming pools up there and hold several inches of water for many days. And
Are you speaking from experience?
I'm speaking from walking through it, okay? I greatly appreciate us going to a different type of roofing and a tapered roof that will pull more water off and let less water stand up there. It will cause us less headaches inside.
The gym portion of it that is not shaded, is that only because that will be replaced, but it's just not shaded because there will be a tapered part at the edge? Is that correct?
Yeah, basically the gym roof, it will be replaced obviously, but the tapering of it and the way the gym is now, it's actually going to the back part of where the playground is.
Right.
It slopes that direction. So actually what we're trying to do is just enhance that a little bit, trying to funnel it just to make sure it continues to run out that way.
Okay.
It's a gradual slope that direction, but this will actually achieve it at the points of where the water exits. It'll actually give it that just a little bit more angle there. So I'm not saying it's going to take more water off, it's just actually going to keep it going.
And if we do that, when you said out by the playground area, I'm just thinking, as far as where the kids are playing, do we have that figured out as
Oh,
well?
yeah.
That it would be away from
Yeah,
it?
it comes down the side of the building and it's not technically in the playground. I was just trying to give you a reference
Yeah,
point.
no, that's perfect, thanks.
I have two questions. The first one is, did you ask for an alternate plan with the tapering, or is it just that only one company provided that?
Well, when I got the bid from Heritage with the alternate, I was like, well, I'm going to make some phone calls because it's not appropriate in any sort of way to not ask the others if they could do it. So I contacted both companies. One of them said they couldn't do it. The other one said that's astronomical, and they weren't going to bid it. So that's why it says NA. I didn't know how else to put it other than NA.
And then the second question is, the company that you have highlighted only ranked to number 2 when it came to decking. That roof is a mess. Do you anticipate a great expense in addition to this if you tear it off and there's, a big issue there?
Yeah, the way the decking prices ran, one company was time and materials, another one was like $350 or $380, per square, and Heritage is $6. You don't really know until you get in there and you start removing. As far as where we've walked and whatnot, we do believe there's going to be some decking. If I took you up there right now and said where I feel it is, as soon as you come off the roof hatch, there's a small little portion of a section that is actually a hallway. I think that's probably pretty skeptical. I'm a little nervous about it. And then as you go down the length of the main run trunk, it gets to right before you turn back by the cafeteria. There's a little spot in there that I'm a little nervous about. Other than that, I really can't. I'd let Dalen speak to that as he walked it. He was up there 2 or 3 times, but I'm not really. That's probably my only 2 concerns that I know off the top of my head that I would say might need to be replaced. So yes, those are an additional cost into what has already been.
I just
there.
hate to tear the roof off and then find out, surprise, it's an additional $400,000.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. That's the, I mean, I hate saying that's the chance we take, but that's kind of where you're at when you're removing a roof, because you really can't, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't really know until you remove all of that off of there. Now you want to pin Dalen down and say, hey, look, man, it's not going to go any more than that. You can. I mean, we can tackle him. I'm cool with that. It's all good.
And some of that may be if we wanted to rebid out and say, you have to give us some, no roofing company's going to do that. That until they get it off, they're not going to lock themselves into, they'll lock themselves in a per square foot price, or they'll lock themselves into a, one of the things that we talked about was the amount of overtime that we might run into because of how late we're starting in the summer and weather and things like that. But we can't force any of them to give us a lock price on the deck, and I don't know a roofing company that would do that because they have no idea. Their liability would be too huge once they got under there.
Nor do we have the time to rebid anything.
We're struggling with that, yes, sir, we are. Well, part of this was the timing of the release of the 408 funding. This is being paid for by 408 funding for the state, for which we miraculously have this year, and it was untouched, and we are very grateful for it, but we want to use it before we get the inevitable mid-year cut. Have to deal with that. That roof must, I mean, for it to be an instructionally sound school, for those of you who've done walkthroughs to it, and I've been there many times, it is unconscionable when we have a heavy rain. Instruction suffers, children suffer. You can't have gym on those days.
In terms of our maintenance priority rubric, this is
Number one.
number one.
And out of this whole scope, I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds here in any sort of way. This is going to be a process between the two of us and making sure that we get this knocked out and going along, because of the fact that instruction is so important when we hit August. The other factor of that is we still have some other things we need to do inside the building. And we can't make that happen as we go. Because, no offense, I'm not a person that's going to rip out a ceiling tile and put ceiling tile back in when we're waiting for a roof. I'm also not going to paint walls.
Right.
I mean, we're going to do this, in my opinion, and this is just me because I'm really cocky sometimes. We do things right. I don't like to take a step back and then back again and back again. I want to make sure it's progressing the whole way through. So.
Good.
And we've made some large-scale commitments to North Jefferson on multiple levels. Instruction, leadership,
absolutely.
instruction, materials and supplies. We made
Nice to give them a
huge
roof over their
commitment.
head. Yeah.
And that's step one. But to his point, we made them large-scale commitments about some interior improvements there as well that can't take place, rationally can't take place until the roof's done, and we're sure that they won't be damaged in any way. So, yeah, we are fairly anxious to move forward. And it is an 11.5%, 12% price increase for this roof over a flat replacement of the exact same kind that we already have. But, based on the feedback from the professionals that we have and the feedback that we've gotten from the roofing company, and certainly if you have more information about longevity of the roof or any other details you think would help with decision-making, it certainly would appear to represent a step forward for us in terms of having, but not just longer roof life, but fewer leaks and better quality of the instructional environment in the school while we have it on there.
There's several things that benefit you for tapering the roof. One is it's required for building code that a roof have positive slope. Right now you have negative slope up there, meaning that the roof ponds water. The West Virginia adopted the existing building code. They're part of that, and so the existing building code it tells you that you have to have positive slope, which you don't have now. The manufacturer can void or not issue a warranty based on ponding water. And the biggest thing from our point of view is the longevity of the roof. I got some pictures if you guys are interested in seeing what ponding water does to a roof system.
Well, I think we probably can intuitively sense what it does. I guess what I would be interested in is what is the warranty period? of this proposed roof?
The warranty period either way will be 20 years, either using the flat insulation or tapered. That's providing that the manufacturer issues the warranty for it. If they come out and do the inspection, Firestone's the one that we use, Carlisle, Manville, any of the other manufacturers we've seen, they'll come out after we're finished and they'll do an inspection before they issue the warranty. If they come out and it's ponded full of water, there's a good chance that they're not going to issue the warranty to begin with. And then you have to go back and try to figure out where to put drains, and then plumb it to get the water off so that you get your warranty. If they go out and say it's been a few dry days and the ponding's gone, they'll issue the warranty. But if you have continued problems with it, then they're going to start looking into why. I've seen that happen too. It's an out.
And how old is the current roof?
I believe, and I have not looked into this, it's a great question, I probably should have known that, but I think it's actually the original.
It is. According to Ralph in our discussions, it was the original roof. Not nearly as much as South Jefferson.
A small tar patch.
Yeah, the gym has a few of those, and then the actual cafeteria workroom area has a few of those too. So, but I do believe it's the original.
So with a tapered roof, you still obviously have a need for drainage, and is that included in terms of whatever mechanisms you use for getting the water?
We had to add 4 additional roof drains into the system to make it.
And where do they go?
There'll be, if you look
We have
at,
a collection pond, or what do we have there?
they'll actually go off onto the side of the building, and we'll put scutcheons on the outside, or we can tie it into the existing drain. It just depends on how close, until they cut the hole in the roof itself to see where it's at. I have an idea of where we can tie it into, but I don't, if I can take it just directly outside, I'm gonna take it directly outside. I don't wanna try to run more pipe inside the school.
And does this, when a roofing company comes in and replaces a roof like this, does this include putting all of the HVAC back, or is that a separate?
None of it will leave. So it'll
Okay.
stay there. They'll just cut around
They'll
where
cut
the,
around it?
yeah, and they'll
Okay.
pull all that off and then just go back to it. Yeah, we don't.
Other questions?
So is there going to be new roof under the HVAC unit or old roof?
Well, where the existing unit sits, that decking that's there will still, be there, because that's where they cut in and put the, your ductwork or whatever, they transition through there. But around that unit will all be brand new.
There's some condenser units that set on sleepers, what we call, and they will be raised and put back, new rubber put up underneath those. The rest of them are set on curbs, meaning that the curb, the outside of the curb is what's waterproofed, and then the unit itself sits down on top of that, and all of the flashing around that is replaced.
Is replaced, yeah, okay. Thank you for this thorough analysis and review. Further questions? If not, we have a motion to approve the recommendation of the alternate bid from Heritage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Moran.
No problem. Thank you.
I have one request.
Yes.
During the process, if you could just keep us
Yeah.
informed,
Yeah.
not that we get a surprise at the end. That would be
We
lovely.
can take a hot air balloon ride if you want.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm just talking about, the decking and the cost of that.
Yeah,
No
particularly the decking issue
When we-
and the timing issue.
Well, I'll bring it back anytime that we know that there's something there. I'll make sure that we immediately say, hey, this is what's up, this is where we're at, so I'm gonna swear feet.
We can set them up for a monthly update. Probably July 10th would be too soon, but the second meeting in July and the first meeting in August, so that you've got a good.
No doubt.
you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, what's,
What is their time skip? Once they start, how long?
Well, we bantered about that a little bit, but I'm hoping they're done and finished by August 11th. Because that following week, and we all know teachers are gonna wanna get in anyway, but that following week is definitely when they do start rocking and rolling in their classrooms.
When do you think they will get started?
It'll probably take me 2 weeks to order to get the insulation in. That's gonna be the holdup. After that, we'll need to get started right away,
So, like, second week in July?
just as soon as it hits the roof, we need to get going. That's a big roof.
Thanks again, gentlemen. Dr. Gibson,
Yes, sir.
do you know that item B, is that going to be a fairly quick?
I
Because I'm
believe so.
just mindful of the sheriff's time. We would flip them unless it's a,
My time's easy, it's his time.
yeah, so,
I'm sure that Ms. Schwartz is graciously, yeah,
in that case, if
I'll buy the first round, Ms. Schwartz, I got you.
If colleagues agree, we'll turn now to actually action item C, and we'll, while he signed up for citizens' comments, we will combine citizens' comments with item C and welcome our former board president and sheriff.
Thank you. I didn't know if we'd missed, as for those who aren't here, when the meeting was about to begin, there was a constituent in the area who came by, saw a marked police car outside, and wanted to report a break-in in the neighborhood. So Sergeant Williams and I went out and got Charlestown and cleared the building, and no one was there, but a window was broken and probably something was stolen out of the house. But anyhow.
Just another example of the great responsiveness of
That's
our
right.
local law enforcement. Thank you
I
very
told
much.
him, I said, that's what you get for having a marked car. People see you and stop you. I did want to come and express to you that I'm very pleased that we had a committee that got together. We had 2 members of my department who wanted to be a prevention resource officer, what most of us call a school resource officer. Sergeant Williams and another senior sergeant of mine, both had applied. Either would have been an excellent candidate. Sergeant Williams was the recommended person. As I told the superintendent, and you all as school board members can appreciate, the fact is that you have to go to the training before you can do this job, but you don't know if the grant is approved until after the training occurs. So in typical West Virginia fashion, we've tried to thwart the bureaucratic system, and so we're prepared to send Sergeant Williams to the training, so when we believe a couple weeks later, when the grant comes through and gets approved, that will, he'll have met the statutory requirements in order to come in. Besides being my shift supervisor for an evening shift right now, I'm very interested and dedicated law enforcement officer. He also has a lot of personal attributes that I think are what you want in a school resource officer. As we talked with the superintendent and others, the school resource officer isn't really to be a law enforcer. It's not to be pushing people around and telling them what to do and so on. It's to build relationships and to create a better climate. And that has nothing negative about the school. We are, and just so you all know, Jefferson High School is by far the largest school in the state of West Virginia that does not already have a prevention resource officer. And we have some schools that are less than a third of the size of Jefferson that do as well. So that's one of the reasons we're as confident as we are this grant will be approved. What it does is it leaves the board to provide, at this point, 10% of what the cost is to do it. So it's the best opportunity in the years that I've been sheriff that I've seen to do this. Most of them fund it pretty heavily on the front end and then drop it off. In this grant, it goes out 10 years and beyond, and at that point, it's a 30% match. So obviously, as the years go by, you all will get the opportunity to see how well you like what's going on and how it's working as well. But it's financially, it's the best deal that I've found in the past 5 years. And so I just wanted to have Sergeant Williams come along as well. Besides his great work for us, he's the father of 4 children, one of whom is in high school in Jefferson County, not at Jefferson High School, so we won't have a problem there. But he's also a pastor and works with the youth at his home church here in Jefferson County as well. So he's used to that kind of dynamic and interaction with young people. So I just wanted him to come by tonight to have an opportunity for you to meet him. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Sheriff. And before we get to the questions, can you give us just a quick summary? So we're being asked to approve an MOU with the Sheriff's Department
Yes, sir.
for the resource officer.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the memorandum of understanding, and first of all, with deep appreciation for Mr. Dougherty, we had a lot of discussion in advance about the difference between this prevention resource officer and actually having a police officer in a school. So a lot of what is in there is a result of discussion about information sharing and logistics about responsibility in terms of liability, in terms of workman's comp, in terms of pay, sharing of information. What does he need to do his job? If we want him to work with at-risk youth and be truly in terms of prevention, what information does he need to be able to do that? He's not simply there to react to things once they happen. He's there to build relationships with children and to help them make good decisions before they make bad ones. And so a lot of the MOU is geared towards not just the logistics of who provides a laptop, who has a radio, but also being clear about Mr. Williams is there as a disciplinarian. That's our administration's responsibility. There are certain tasks of his role. So all of that is outlined in that MOU, and it does include the fiduciary responsibility, which, as he noted, is astronomical leverage for us. For 10% for over that time period is just unbelievable for us to get someone. He didn't point out, but in the interview with Mr. Williams, we were very impressed by both the fact that he went back under his own initiative after becoming a police officer and got his master's degree to pursue his, getting additional skills because he was so passionate about working with youth in his community, and just his discussion about positive relationship and what he brings. We really are interested in someone who's going to build programs at J-High and build relationships at J-High. So a lot of the thought and time in that MOU is about making sure our role with each other is clear, so we all have good expectations to begin with, and we don't run into any missteps or miscommunications that sometimes lead to negative publicity.
He technically works under my authority, workers' compensation, everything else. He's not your employee, so you don't have to worry about that in that regard. And he will work the school calendar and schedule, and also the expectation is that he will sort of oversee after-school activities where you've had law enforcement be there in the past. He's also really an adjunct to the faculty. When I say an adjunct to the faculty, we do expect, first of all, he's got a bachelor's and a master's degree, and so we would expect that he'll be involved in a lot of classes and a lot of classroom discussions to understand sort of roles and responsibilities that we all have in a free society. So I think he adds much to it. The other part is, just so you know, he's a seasoned and experienced person. His salary is much more. You're not getting the 10% for that. You're getting 10% for a new deputy being hired, and you're only having to match the 10% on that end, not a person who's already been in the job for many years. So your cost of those 10% is not 10% of his salary. I do have a deal working with some other state agencies. I'm going to get them to pay the full amount for seasoned deputies, but in your case, it's 10% of a new deputy.
Before we turn to any questions, do we have a motion on the approval of this MOU? And a second? Great.
Second.
Questions?
Good getting started.
He'll go to the training, and then when school's ready to start in August, he'll be there in August.
And who's providing the grant funding, assuming that it's all
Comes from
approved?
the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
We actually applied for this last year and didn't get one, and Mr. Dougherty, in the positive, relentlessly positive way that he has, came back and said, we're going to do this again, let's make some changes. So we put together some data and fed it to him, and his office turned in a great application, and ours is coming from our general fund.
And this funding is way better than last year's funding. So we won going forward.
Other questions from the board?
And we would, moving forward, once we have board approval and the school year is about to start and parents are paying attention to us again, we will be conveying to the faculty and to the community at Jefferson High School his introduction and making sure, just as Mr. Dougherty carefully did, really this is his role. You need to understand this. He's not here to police Jefferson High School.
Right.
He's here to fill a need with some youth who need some guidance and a strong role model and a positive community force. So we'll make sure that information gets out in a thoughtful way.
When I sat in your seats, I told people that one of the safest places you can be is in a school. I can tell you, as I sit in my seat today, it's still the safest places to be. That doesn't mean there aren't problems. Obviously, you got thousands and thousands of people and students and staff and so on that are in buildings, but it's not being done because we think there's a danger or a harm. We think this just will make everyone do better and live better by having that presence there more often.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. All in favor of approving this MOU for the new prevention resource officer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Sergeant Williams, we look forward to working with you. We appreciate your interest, your commitment to the youth of our county.
Yes, sir.
Madam Superintendent, this is another example of not only your the innovation and forward thinking that you bring to this school system, but also the great partnership and collaboration that we have with local law enforcement, certainly led by our sheriff. And I know, we learned from many of our LSIC meetings and talking to law enforcement who were parents, law enforcement's on task force, that this partnership is leading to a lot of best practices that are now being demonstrated and utilized by other school systems across the country, and we're extremely grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Ms. Schwartz, we appreciate your patience.
He's going to be wonderful.
This, when I was here in May,
Thank you, ma'am.
in May, when I presented the grants, I neglected to mention that when we met as the committee at school, we had agreed to offer Mr. Famigliati the opportunity to revise his quote for stage curtains, because we didn't know if it included all of them, and it didn't. And so when that opportunity was given to him, he amended his grant, which was originally $8,000, and to include all of the staging curtains, it would be $12,476, so that's a difference of $4,476. And then in addition, he also requested 2 additional sick lights, I don't know. He had 3, he wants 5.
No, I want to see one. I want to know what they are.
Well, I'll probably have a picture of one, and it's something he's given me here. And the committee, we sent that out, both of these out to the committee through email, and everyone agreed, we're doing it, let's bring the lighting up to date, be more cost efficient. So his original grant for the 3 lights was $5,100, and the new grant amendment would be $7,792. So we're recommending the extra $2,692.05.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Questions? So, was this one application or 2 separate?
It was 2 separate.
Okay.
He put in a lesser one
Yeah.
because he didn't know what kind of money we were going to have, and so then when we had fewer, less expensive requests, and so we had money left over, and so
Okay.
We figured while they were doing it once,
Absolutely.
they might as well
Yeah.
just do it all at the same time.
I think it makes good sense. I guess the only question I would have, just from a consistency and process, is have we done this in the past? I mean, have we amended, have any requests been amended based on additional information that we can recall?
Not monetarily. I mean, they changed from the Pirates of Penzance to the Wizard of Oz, and we've had to pay shipping that wasn't included in a grant, or the quote went bad, and so it went up a few dollars and that kind of stuff. But we've tried to make that clear to the people that we can't do that because we don't always have the extra money.
Right,
So
right. But in this year, I recall when we approved these, there was a balance that, and you'd rather spend it than forego it.
Well, and we're going to open them back up in the fall, but, and I should have, it was my fault, I neglected to mention that we had, at that initial meeting where we all met, to Major Sudan, one of the committee members said, we should talk to him, because if they're going to do one and they're all bad, let's just do them all.
Yeah.
And so he went and talked to him, and then he resubmitted these. So, I mean, but we had already discussed it as the committee to offer
Right.
that opportunity. It wasn't like he came back and said, hey. Now, the lights, I don't think we discussed, but I don't know how they got thrown in there, but
Well, if you're going to start a project, you might as well finish it if you can.
right.
So, other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Woods. It's very nice to have you running that grant.
It sure
It's
is.
a huge responsibility that you don't get thanked for enough, but I appreciate it.
Performance was a great fan.
Yep.
I'm honored to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Well,
Must be getting near the end. Hi.
It wouldn't be a meeting without
That's
a
right.
request from you, Ms. Gissel.
that's right.
So I can show my age and say, we're saying, good night, Gracie. Okay. This is a request for a personal care aide for a student, second grader going into third grader at TA Lowry. As we've gone through this, we've expressed to our staff greatly that we know that we need data to make these decisions. And I gave you, and I've attached a summary of all the other pages that they gave me, so that you didn't have those. But I do have more data, but gave you a general idea of where we were headed with this and that they had been watching this all year. And realizing that in order for this child to be successful, that she would need a personal care aide by her side, and for the safety of her and for other students. Questions?
Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Questions?
My apologies, may I
Yeah.
add one other?
Sure, please.
And so, just knowing that in our move, especially now during the summer, this position is actually being filled with another position that the student had moved away. So this is a switch. They were available in the system. This is not additional funding.
And you think even with the increased immaturity level between second and third grade over the next couple months, it's still going to be an issue?
There is a plan, and what we have also started doing as our students are getting personal care aides, because that's always that little hesitant to do that to a student so they don't become dependent on it. We've also created a process where we also like to sit down as an IEP team and create a plan of how are we going to back away. So it is the same process, which also ends up with students either moving out of the system, or as students don't need them, I have these aides and I'm able to move staff around and to fill other slots. And at the end of the year, it was an increase we were seeing in the behavior issues.
And that's why they're listed as an itinerant, so that they can move if they need to.
Correct.
Okay, other questions? Hearing none, the vote is all in favor of approving the full-time special education itinerant aide. Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, last item on the agenda is the item E, the superintendent annual evaluation assessment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've learned many things through Gary Cable's leadership over the years on the board. Certainly the first and most important responsibility of a board member that I've learned from Gary, and I know that all of us have learned from our training and our orientation, is that by far our biggest responsibility is the hiring and supervision of the superintendent, because indeed it is the superintendent who runs the school system, not us. It is our job to provide some direction and oversight to the superintendent, but obviously the operations fall to that person. As part of that responsibility, it is important, in fact required, that we provide an annual evaluation and assessment, and we are pleased to do so tonight. This board follows policy recommended by the West Virginia Board of Education, policy 5309, that requires that we do an annual evaluation and report it to the state by June 30th. There are a couple of areas that we are required to look at in this evaluation, and there are also some that we have also agreed to with the superintendent in addition to those. What we want to do is briefly outline the process. We have also adopted the template that the State Board of Education provides, and the board members have completed this evaluation. We will share that with the superintendent. And then obviously I want to open it to my colleagues for any comments. But in terms of the process, we are required, so some of the required areas of evaluation include superintendent's success in improving student achievement generally across the county. Specifically, the superintendent's success in improving student achievement through management of low-performing schools. Other areas of the evaluation include community relations, school finance, personnel relations, curricular standards, and overall leadership. This evaluation instrument was shared with each board member. Each board member is asked to fill in, make their own comments, and we basically evaluate the superintendent on, did she meet goals, exceed goals, did not meet goals, do we have any comments? Our board met in executive session last Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Appreciate everyone being here for that. And board members shared their individual assessments at that time, and then the board worked collectively on this instrument. And I am pleased to report that the board is overall extremely pleased with your performance for this past year. We know this has been a challenging year for many reasons, some that we'll get into in a moment. But we certainly believe that not only have you met the goals, the high goals that you set for yourself and that we agreed to, but you have exceeded those in many, many instances. And this was a unanimous decision by this board. So every member of the board has a copy of the completed board evaluation. We've shared it with you. Now, you can request an executive session for us to discuss this with you, or if you're comfortable proceeding in public session, we're more than happy to do that as well.
Thank you for asking and respecting my feelings. I'm perfectly happy for us to move forward in public session. I think that's important for accountability.
Absolutely. And then we've given a copy to Mrs. Harner, and we will we need to submit this to the West Virginia Board of Education by the end of the month, by June 30th. So just in a quick summary, and then I'll ask colleagues to please chime in, or as we go through this, if there are any areas that that you want to either emphasize or or clarify, please do. So in working with the superintendent, there were a set of goals that we established specifically with you. The first was realignment of student populations in school facilities for maximum instructional and resource efficiency. This is a fancy terminology for redistricting. The board unanimously agreed that you exceeded this goal. This was obviously a big undertaking. You accomplished it successfully. More importantly, you did it in a manner that really engaged the community in a discussion, both about the complexity of redistricting, why it was necessary, and I think we were very transparent in how the decisions were made. And I think that the community was really engaged in this process, arguably for the first time. So we thought that you certainly, and you did it not only in a timely fashion, but the impact on teachers and students was as minimal as it could be, and you achieved some transportation savings and other savings in the process. So I think in our world, that's a win-win-win And we certainly thought you exceeded that goal. Anything to add to that? The second goal was student achievement. And correct me if I'm wrong here, our goal was, or your goal, which, bear with me, colleagues, I know I have it right in front of me. To improve our rankings. Currently, our student achievement under the West Virginia General Summative Assessment, we rank 4th out of 55 counties.
In some arenas, yes, sir.
Yeah. And your goal is to increase us to top 3 overall in the state. And
My goal is actually number 1 eventually, but I wanted to start with number 3,
Sure.
yes, sir.
now, the challenge here is that we're required by state policy to complete this and submit it by June 30th. But as the superintendent has been telling us for weeks, if not months, we don't have state assessment scores. So it's we're just now getting those. We're interpreting them.
They're not finalized. They have some of the raw data. However, there is cleaning of that data to do which students count, which students don't, is the student in the right school system, and so we do not have any official scores, no scores of other counties, no scores of subgroups. So we have some raw data, but not the data that we need to be able to make that calculation.
So the board, because of that, the board believed that, and you're asked to either check exceeds goal, meets goal, does not meet goal. We thought we should leave this blank until we have those assessments in.
Yes, sir.
And we'll revisit this. However, the board also strongly believed that even without looking at the state assessment, we see tremendous evidence of the work that you and your team are making towards increasing student achievement. Things like the emphasis that you have on staff development and making it a priority in the calendar year. Interim testing to provide data on student progress and tying that data to then making informed decisions on instructional curricular instructional feedback to teachers. We see that. And we think that these are very, obviously very positive steps. Anyone have anything to add to that? On your third goal was the revision of policy manual to include an electronic searchable database, an updated policy consistent with West Virginia Code. We believe that you've met this goal. The online database has been developed and is available for a revised policy. The revision of one of the main chapters has been completed, reviewed by internal staff for our consideration. And we also realize this is a tremendous undertaking. And I know that we have, for the first time, the board has approved some limited resources to help work on this.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
you certainly did.
Yeah.
After some revision on our part.
Right. And then the fourth goal was reduction of performance gap between majority and subgroup performances for some of our low SES and African American subgroups in language arts and mathematics. Again, we run into the same issue that we run into with the second goal on student achievement. We don't have the test results to really analyze the data. And so we did leave this one blank, but we also underscore like on the second goal, where we see other efforts that you and your team have made, one effort that we believe will have a positive influence on the performance gap is the looking at discipline data and seeing that there's been a significant decrease in the discipline gap between these subgroups and the overall groups. And we know that there's a direct correlation between that and student achievement. So we bless you. So we think that is obviously another very positive development. And then finally, on the 5 goals that we had agreed to a year ago, the 5th was increasing the percentage of students scoring proficient or better on the 3rd grade English language arts assessment. Again, data not available, so we did leave that we did leave it blank as to whether met or exceeds, but once again, we have to look for other data and intrinsic data, and we know that the emphasis that your curriculum team has put on early literacy, particularly this year, and some of the reading intervention programs at both 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, we know that those will have a positive impact. We also realize that that's something that doesn't happen overnight, and that has been both when we in our discussions when you expressed interest in coming here, and something that you talk to us frequently about is what a key indicator 3rd grade reading is. And I think it's now all ingrained in all of our heads, thanks to you. And we know that the school system is focused on it as well. So that was the first section of the evaluation. I won't go through in great detail the other components, but let me just summarize. Section 2 category is kind of builds on this first section. Success in improving student achievement generally. I think the board believed that you exceed the standards across the board. And looking at everything from your classroom walkthroughs to being in the schools to the emphasis that you have on student achievement and high expectations for our teachers. We see it, and they have responded very positively to it. Success in improving student achievement generally. This MOU with the Sheriff's Department is an example tonight. You have come to us on several occasions with grants for social workers, resource officers. All of this is to help create an environment that puts an emphasis on student achievement. And again, we can, working with principals, teachers, and staff, and community to develop a strategic plan for improving student achievement. You've exceeded the standards and expectations there. And then one of the optional categories was community relations. Obviously, this is a strong area of emphasis of this board. Community engagement and transparency and providing the community an opportunity to not only be informed but to also to provide input. I think you've made great strides there. Also, just in terms of community relations, recognizing student and employee achievement. That has been a tremendous, I think the board, it's been fun to see all of the student and employee achievement that is recognized here once a month. course, we have to talk about district finances, Category 4. We were kind of hoping that you might find a couple of money trees out there or win the lottery. That has not happened. In the 2 years that you've been here, every year you've had to deal with less money, not more. But you've done so without it impacting the classroom. We have taken some cuts. We've absorbed those in the administration staff, the central office. I know that we are reaching a tipping point, that we're asking an awful lot of your team, but we also know that that sacrifice has not been felt in the classroom, and that's important. At the same time, in your first year on the job, and you still get credit for this in the second year, you had to lead the community in voting for a school levy, which not only passed, but continues to be the most successful vote ever in the history of the state. So that is both bodes well for district finances, but also community relations. One of the other things, thinking back to the presentation tonight on the maintenance for North Jefferson, and I know this hasn't been easy. The board talked about this. Establishing some criteria and a rubric for all of our schools have needs, but getting the principals and everyone to buy into prioritizing those needs, so that when they come to us, it's not just because, frankly, someone screamed the loudest, but it's because you have established a set of criteria that people believe is fair for evaluating where we spend our limited resources. And we all know that's not easy, but again, it points to your success in leading the team in this area of district finance. We could go on, and I'll be happy to add if there's anything else that any of the colleagues on the board would like to emphasize. But I would just simply say that we are extremely grateful for your dedication to the students of Jefferson County. And we know you're thrown many curves. I think all of us, I certainly tell others, that it's the hardest job I've ever seen out there that anyone has as superintendent. And you've done a great job at it in your second year. And we are pleased to talk about this evaluation, but we're also eager to talk about our mutual goals for our next year. So, colleagues, any further comments or anything you want to underscore? Anything I left out that deserves?
The only thing you left out is a person who has come here to do a job for us that has been excellent. I think we owe her a great debt of gratitude for working 28 hours a day. It wouldn't have happened without that. I jabber a little bit about that every once in a while. But I don't know where in the world we would ever find anybody to replace her. And honestly, I don't think that's possible.
It's and we're not interested. You're absolutely right.
Definitely not.
And for anyone looking for a superintendent, she's not interested.
She's not interested. That's right.
I got my gun cocked.
That's right. Good. We're counting on you, Gary. So,
I can guarantee you I won't ever work for another school system in West Virginia.
Pardon?
I said I could guarantee you I won't ever work for another school system in West Virginia. It's Jefferson. Jefferson's the one.
Well, we certainly want to make this available to anyone who asks for it and wants to review it and share any comments with the board. And we would like to get your, last year, we met in roughly a July-August timeframe, and as Mr. Cable pointed out, we'd actually like to have a kind of a planning session, not only for the upcoming school year, but also to focus in on your goals and objectives for the next school year. And Mr. Cable also pointed out that we should try to do a mid-year one as well, which I think the board agrees with. And it didn't happen this past year because we had a lot of mid-year meetings, both with the community on redistricting. So in a sense, we were pursuing our objectives. But if you have any thoughts about next steps or timeline
I agree completely, as we did the last summer and the summer before, a retreat for the board to digest all of the data and information from this year, look at the new legislation, and plot a course for goals for next year, as we had discussed earlier. We will be on a bit of a different time frame because the requirement to complete my evaluation next year will fall March 1st. So
That's right.
just being mindful when creating goals that will need to focus on goals that you can actually receive some measurements and feedback on in a timely manner before then. So of necessity, they'll be shorter term goals.
And presumably, we'll have some of the assessment data that we can also review whenever we meet, late July or August.
Yes, sir. That's our hope. That was the thought behind the timing last year, to have the scores back in time to do that, which we did. It was July 28th was when we met last year, and it was a scramble, quite frankly, for us to get the data turned around in time. So I'll send some dates out to the board for that.
I mean, I know you kind of have to balance suddenly you're working with getting ready for the opening of school. But, maybe something just a tad later than July 28th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So maybe first week in August.
Okay.
Between sports tryouts.
Yeah.
Do my best.
We should, and I think it is underscored certainly in the evaluation, but I do want to also mention, since I see some of your team here, that while, again, we recognize that a lot of your administrative team is doing more with less, we've also been very, I think the board is also extremely pleased with the way you have approached new hires and both the process and the high expectations that you've set for the people that you do successfully recruit, and it's a pleasure to have them on your team. So,
Thank you.
and of course, we all know who holds the place together.
Janet.
Janet.
That's not even a trick question. I am the 9th superintendent that she has very graciously broken in and
That's
trained.
right.
Yes.
She's a keeper.
You ought to check that through your association. That might be a record in the state.
Yeah. So,
Might be.
any other questions or comments on this agenda item? If not, any other business before the board?
We will be having a RESA meeting Thursday night.
Well, that's going to be interesting, isn't it?
That's going to be real interesting.
We had one in Hampshire on the 14th, to discuss, and so all the counties met. Interestingly enough, Berkeley and we came with our little checklists, and we're in, we're out, dollar figures and everything. And Becky Hester, who is an absolute phenom, she's amazing. She created notebooks for us of breakdowns of every single program, the cost, gave us a per hour cost to expect if we wanted to buy in them for the next year.
This little gal's something else.
She is. Ooh, if I have a chance to steal her, betcha.
She is something
I already
else.
sent her a couple of emails, just in case we
Good.
like it. Jeremy says it's a beautiful
She knows the system inside and out.
She does. She does. So I will be interested to see which. It did appear from the discussion that it was really sort of a coalition of us, Berkeley, Morgan, and then the other 5 counties who were having their own discussions. Just geographically, they are so isolated from us
Well,
that.
it kind of breaks my heart because they need the most help
Yeah,
because they're
they
so
do.
small.
They do.
But just the area, how big an area it is, and they have a whole lot less resources than we do.
Oh, they do. They do. And there are several things in which, it's just us in Berkeley, we're the 800-pound gorillas in the room. You know, if we both decide to go in on an audiologist, we pretty much cover them by ourselves, so.
Right, and they're not going to be able to serve students as they have in the past.
Well, we should, we need to kind of have a review at the board level. of
Yes,
what-
sir.
Once we figure out
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on.
Well, and some of that is, we were all asked to submit, they sent out a survey. We had come with ours, but other counties weren't as far along in their discussion and preparation, or just had different agendas. So, she sent out a survey in which all of the superintendents had to, for every service, commit or not commit for a year's time. And then there are many, many, many state grants that they're still waiting on. Well, you get this service free now, but if there's no state grant, do you want to purchase it or not? So there's still several moving factors, but on July the 10th, I can give you an update on where we're at so far.
Well, I think, did everybody see, I believe it's July 27th or something?
Oh, yeah.
They're doing the meetings
In
with.
Martinsburg,
in
it's on our
Martinsburg.
school board night.
Right, so we would need to
What
look
do you
at
mean,
that.
school board night?
It's conflicting with this meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought
But
it was
it's for
on a Thursday.
So is the
Jefferson.
10th.
Oh,
We
wait,
talked
did I
about
think
the
it was?
10th?
Yeah, it's not on record.
No, it's
No.
on a different night. It is, I thought.
I think it is
Yeah,
a
it's
Thursday.
July 10th is.
July 10th is the Monday board meeting. I think you're talking about where SBA, they're coming around the states doing
It's that regional.
Oh, the
Regional
Wisconsin
thing,
Department
yeah.
of Education, that's
It's
Ryan
the
Mills.
20th on the, Thursday the 20th, and it's the regional RESA meeting. And they actually put us with
The
just
three counties.
Berkeley, Jefferson, and Morgan. So they
broke-
actually did what
they
we
broke
listened
RESA
to
in
last year.
2 sessions.
Yeah, so we're not with Hardy Mineral and Grant and one other. Is it Hampshire?
Well, that came through the SBA.
The letter
Yes.
from the state superintendent, what effects on the programs, what programs he mentioned in that letter?
Yeah.
What kind of effect may that have on us? We don't know yet.
We've asked for some information that we haven't received yet. And I do think that the state finance department is doing everything that they can to turn that around and tell us. The only one piece that we've gotten independent confirmation of the effect of that has been the Department of Professional Development and the fact that they are merging and consolidating and moving to a new location. That's the only independent effect where they've actually sent us, here's how those budget changes are going to affect what we're doing. That's the only one so far. And I do anticipate, as I told you when I forwarded that letter, there were just simply a number of things unaddressed in that. There continues to be a significant budget gap that once the bills come due after that first quarter, I have no doubt in my mind that come November, once again, we are going to be asked for a mid-year budget cut. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind, and we're prepared for that to not harm our staff. It does get frustrating, but
Any
Let's
other,
just hope that's the only one.
yes, sir.
Because there could be one in the second semester, too.
Any other,
I wouldn't bet against it.
No, sir, because they didn't address any revenue generation in that. Yes, sir?
any other comments or? Speaking of evaluations, the board also has to provide a self-evaluation by the end of the month.
Have you done yours?
No, so I will get mine done. Has everyone else done theirs?
Yes.
No,
I have.
Okay,
that was an online thing with the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got that done.
I'll get mine done, I promise.
I don't know whether I had enough.
Maybe I'm the one who got that. So that notice was intended for me. Is that what you're saying?
Because you don't want to get kicked out.
Yeah. All right.
4 days, just saying.
Okay.
It's not hard.
That's a lot of time.
It is hard.
Okay, you got 2 days.
Go home and do it tonight,
Takes about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not long.
maybe.
All right.
Yeah, it's not long.
All
Depends how
right.
much you comment.
Anything else for the good of the going once, going twice? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Hey, thank you.